Welcome to the WARSURGE Quick Start video. I'm Nicholas.
And I'm Richard. WARSURGE is a universal miniature war game that lets you use any models to play. Today we will cover the bulk of the rules so you can get started with a game.
Tools of war. In WARSURGE you need a tape measure, some 6-sided dice known as D6, the WARSURGE app, and of course your models. When using a tape measure, all distances are measured in inches.
To play, you design your units, weapons, and a roster with the WARSURGE app. Make sure you and your opponents have approximately the same points to spend, which we call the point limit. For example, you each make a roster that is worth 500 points. Just ensure each unit is 50 points or more, and each model is 1 point or more including weapons.
WARSURGE app Quick Guide. If you're not familiar with the WARSURGE app, refer to the booklet WARSURGE app Quick Guide for a fast overview of using the WARSURGE app. There are helpful videos inside the WARSURGE app. Click on the I button in the top right corner to bring up a video.
Unit and weapon stats. In WARSURGE, units and weapons have stats. These translate to how resilient or powerful that they can be. Here is an overview of what stats there are in WARSURGE. Unit stats. Name. Each unit has a name. In this case, it is Scavenger Soldiers. Points per model. The value of each model in the unit. Here it is 2.27 points. Move. How far each model in the unit can move in inches. Dash. How far each model in the unit can dash in inches. Defense. How resistant the unit is against weapon power. HP. How many times a model can take damage before becoming a casualty. Armor. A dice chance to ignore damage. Lower values are superior. Aegis. A dice chance to ignore damage. It is unaffected by weapon AP. Transport and fire points. We shall discuss these stats in the video Quick Start Extra Details. They can also be found in the core rules. Unit perks. These add special abilities or passive benefits to a unit. Weapons. This is where the unit's weapons are kept.
Weapon stats. Name. Each weapon has a name. In this case, it is called Flintlock Pistol. Points per weapon. The value of each weapon. Here it is 1.16 points. Range. How far the weapon can target an enemy in inches. Attacks. How many times the weapon strikes. Each attack is 1 dice. Power. How strong the weapon is against unit defense. AP. How effective the weapon is at punching through armor. The lower the value, the more potent it is. Type. This is how portable the weapon is for the unit. Weapons are either heavy, battle, or assault. Weapon perks. These add special abilities or passive benefits to a weapon.
In WARSURGE, your models are grouped into units. Each unit can have any number of models in it. Building a roster in the WARSURGE app is where you decide how many models are to be in a unit and how many weapons they are to equip.
Playing area. The battlefield. Set up a battlefield to play on. We recommend a flat, rectangular or square surface, but you can use anything in almost any size. Place some scenery on the battlefield, divide the board to suit the number of players, with a neutral no man's land in the middle. For example, divide the board into 3 areas for a 2-player game. Player areas are called deployment zones.
First game turn. Now we start the game with the first game turn. Each player rolls a dice, which we call a roll-off. The highest scoring player chooses the turn master. The turn master will go first, who chooses which deployment zone to take. The next highest score from the roll-off chooses the next deployment zone until everyone has a deployment zone. WARSURGE has 4 phases to each game turn: deploy, move, attack, and dash. Deploy phase is where players alternate placing their models. Move phase is where players alternate moving. Attack phase is where players attack. Dash phase is where players alternate positioning their models a second time, ready for the next game turn.
Deploy phase. We now begin the deploy phase. Starting with the turn master and going clockwise around the battlefield, each player places a unit onto the battlefield inside their deployment zone that they chose. Players continue placing one unit at a time until all players are done, or until there are no units left to place.
When units have more than one model, at least one model needs to be within 2 inches of another model in the unit at all times. This is called coherency. Move phase. Next we begin the move phase. Going clockwise, starting with the turnmaster, players each move one unit at a time. You may move all the models in a unit when it moves. How far a unit can move depends on the move stat on the unit's profile, which players check with a tape measure. Players keep moving units until each player has moved a unit once, or all players are done.
Cover bonus. If units have positioned themselves into cover or are obscured by other units, they can gain a defense boost. Each unit that has 50% or more of its models 50% covered gains +1 defense.
Attack phase. Next, players fight with the attack phase. Starting with the turnmaster, going clockwise, players select a unit and resolve their weapons against an enemy target. When a player selects a unit, they select a weapon, then use a tape measure referring to the weapon's range to see who they can attack, measuring from the attacking model to the target.
When a unit decides on what target it wants to attack, the player rolls a dice for each attack on the weapon. If several of the same weapon are in the unit, roll these attacks together. For example, if there are 10 weapons with 2 attacks, roll 20 dice.
Next, compare the power of the weapon to the target's defense to see if any of the attacks damage the target. Dice with a number equal or higher than what is needed on the attack chart succeed. Discard any dice that rolled less. Successful attacks can cause a unit to lose HP. However, it can be prevented with armor and Aegis if the target has any equipped.
Next, we see if the target can defend themselves using armor. An armor save is a dice roll to see if the armor deflects the attack. If the weapon's AP stat is equal to or lower than the number value of the armor, they cannot roll armor save. In this example, the AP did not cut the armor, and so the unit rolls their armor saves. The defending player will pick up the successful attack dice and roll them. Any dice that were equal or higher than the armor stat succeed in blocking damage and can be discarded. Any dice that failed can cause the unit to lose HP, but this can be prevented with the Aegis save.
Next we see if the target can defend themselves using Aegis, which is special protection. An Aegis save is a dice roll to see if the attack can be prevented, just like armor. However, a weapon's AP stat has no effect on Aegis. The defending player picks up the failed armor save dice and rolls them as Aegis saves. Any Aegis dice that were equal or higher than the Aegis stat succeeded in blocking damage and can be discarded. Any dice that failed will cause the unit to lose HP. Count up the unsuccessful Aegis saves. This is the amount of HP lost by the defending unit.
If a unit has no save, it cannot roll dice to protect itself. When a model is reduced to 0 HP, it becomes a casualty and will be removed from the battlefield after all players have finished attacking. If the model has not yet attacked, it will still get the chance to do so.
Focus on one model at a time when reducing HP. When they are a casualty, reduce the HP of the next model in the unit. In the example of 2 HP, each time a unit loses 2 HP, one model becomes a casualty. Focus on one model at a time when reducing HP. When they are a casualty, reduce the HP of the next model in the unit.
Next weapon or next player. The attacking player selects another weapon on the unit to attack if it has one. Otherwise, the next player will select a unit and then attack. This continues to alternate in a clockwise fashion until all players have attacked with each unit once, or they have finished attacking.
Dash phase. Lastly, we perform the dash phase. Starting with the turnmaster, players can dash their units. This is just like the move phase, except a unit uses its dash stat instead, measuring with a tape measure. Players alternate in a clockwise fashion around the battlefield until everyone has made a dash with each unit, or all players are done.
Weapon types and movement. It is important to note that weapon types have an effect on movement. Heavy weapons require the unit to stand still. Battle weapons allow the unit to move, but not dash, while assault weapons can be used and still allow the unit to move and dash.
Melee. When one or more units move or dash into base-to-base contact with an enemy, it begins a melee. When this happens, the units must keep at least one model in base contact with each other. Attacking an enemy unit in the same melee causes all weapons to have unlimited range, and all involved models can be casualties even if they are out of sight. Battle and heavy weapons are less likely to cause damage though, with battle weapons having a -1 to the dice and heavy a -2. For example, a 4+ becomes 5+ for battle and heavy becomes 6+. If casualties cause the unit to not have one model in base-to-base contact, reposition the least number of models the minimum distance to restore base contact.
End of game turn. After the deploy, move, attack, and dash phases are complete, it is the end of the game turn. The next game turn begins, and players will again roll to see who is the turn master, then proceed to the deploy phase.
Deciding the victor. After 4 or more game turns have passed, it is the end of the game. The player with the most points of their roster remaining is the winner. The play area in the WARSURGE app tracks remaining points at the bottom of the screen.
In these examples, one roster has 65% remaining and the other 54%, so the 65% is the victor. This was a deathmatch, but you can play thousands of different games using the WARSURGE competitive book, or even play solo and cooperative games.
The great thing about WARSURGE is you can add special perks to units and weapons, making them more powerful or tactical in a game. Customize your army and develop your own strategic style.
If you liked that video, you could also try the advanced system, which is more tactically advanced, or you could learn a few more of the nuances, the details of the game in the detailed video.
See you on the battlefield.